What comes in your mind when you think about British identity? Do they have a cup of tea every afternoon? Do they cherish every royal wedding? Do they go around the city with that famous double-decker? In this video, we'll find out that British identity is much more than that. It is shaped by some aspects such as history, religion, and language. But now, we're going to take a closer look at one aspect, which is British literature as part of the language, and discuss how it shapes British identity, starting from Beowulf, the first English literature work, to Harry Potter, one of the most famous latest English literature works. In addition, English literature has a significant role in showing how the British perspective changes from one era to another, which also depicts the British identity as well.
What is Beowulf? Beowulf is an anonymous heroic poem written in Old English between the year 700 and the year 900. It tells the story of Beowulf, a warrior prince from Sweden who fights in 3 battles fighting against 3 different monsters. At the end of the poem, Beowulf got poorly wounded during the final battle and died not long after successfully killing the last monster. The poem shows how the British see the world during the Old English era. The story indirectly shows how the British life during the era was still dominated by warrior society, as the warriors played a great part in protecting people's lives. Beowulf also points out how the sense of security for the people in that era is symbolized by great halls. As the oldest surviving Germanic epic and the longest Old English poem, many people, especially the British, consider Beowulf as the pioneer of English literature, which make it as part of the British identity. The British also use this poem as a tool to associate them as a part of the British community.
You might have heard about the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer from your English class. It is a collection of stories written in Middle English that became one of the most significant English literature works. The framing device for the stories is a pilgrimage to visit the shrine of Thomas Becket in Canterbury Cathedral. The Canterbury Tales depicts the social and religious condition of the Middle English era. The pilgrimage depicts the domination of religion during that time. As Christianity experienced a major development in the Middle English era, it influenced people's perspective to see religion as the most fundamental thing in life. In the story, a group of people from different backgrounds are united by the same religious purpose that enhances the British identity in terms of religion. Even though the Canterbury Tales was written during the Norman invasion, Chaucer wrote the story in English instead of French or Latin. It has been suggested that the greatest contribution of the Canterbury Tales in shaping British identity was the popularization of the English language in mainstream literature.
If you are a fan of romantic stories, you must have known the play Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare, one of the greatest writers in the world. His creations influenced the literature field in the world until today. One of his famous creations is a tragedy titled Romeo and Juliet, which can be considered as the most iconic love story of all the time. The play has been adapted to many musical performances and films. The play tells a tragedy between 2 lovers, Romeo and Juliet, because of the rivalry between their families. At the end, both lovers died of misunderstandings when fighting for their love. The existence of Shakespeare and his creations have shown that Britain is rich in literature and has a great influence in the literature field in the world. It also shows that British have a great quality in literature since the creations are timeless, which becomes their pride and heritage.
Oliver Twist is one of the most popular novels in 1938 during the Victorian era. This is a story of an orphan named Oliver Twist who spends 10 years living in a workhouse with unpleasant treatment and facilities. He adventures to London and finds a fortune in his life by being adopted by the benevolent man. The author of this masterpiece, Charles Dickens, is regarded as one of Britain's greatest authors and pioneers who pushed for real changes in society. Most of his works influence how society and government deal with the challenge in its time. Dickens' portrayal of urban poverty through these works criticized the Victorian society's treatment and superiority toward the poor. It reflects a nation with poverty, wealth, and empire. This work shows the lower class perception of Industrial Revolution during that era. The The British perceived Dickens' work as a guide to help them define their identity. His work are still affecting authors today, and he has a museum and statue dedicated to him in Portsmouth, showing that he has become the pride and identity of British nation.
Who doesn't know Harry Potter? It's a fictional story that tells the adventure of Harry Potter, a wizard boy with lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. This story is written in 7 novels by a famous British author, J.K. Rowling. This story has been adapted into movies and is widely watched by people all over the world. The Harry Potter story bloodlines reflect the British perspective, as British society is very class-conscious. The term purebloods, half-bloods, and mudbloods in Harry Potter indirectly represents British society classes from the highest to the lowest class. As it's shown in the story, only the purebloods matter the most in the story. The same goes for British society. The upper-class people often underestimate the immigrants and lower classes. Although Harry Potter reflects the lack of diversity in Britain, this book has been read by billions of people worldwide, and it becomes the new pride of the British. Harry Potter's fame has become the tool for the British to create their sense of nationality as well. Some scenes that use the city of London as the set also enhance the British identity in the story.
From these narratives, we can conclude that British literature has become one of the most important parts in defining the British identity. Literature is used as a device by British people to form their identity by giving a hereditary narration about the significance of the British literature. The development of English literature also makes the British feel very exclusive, as they are the pioneer of that language. Furthermore, these literary works couldn't fully define the diversity in British society, since there are many other aspects that should be considered in shaping British identity, such as religion, history, and culture. The British need to be more open about the changes that happen in the UK to redefine their identity. Even though Britain is no longer a superpower country in the world, from this narration we can see that British literature has still become a pride and heritage for British until today, since it brings a huge influence especially in the literature and cultural fields, not only in Britain but also in the world. We can see that the great quality in British literature is reflected in its everlasting literature works that are still relevant and used in today's literature learning.